Okay, I lied. I have been saying in comments and such that this is going to be the last part of my Garten of BanBan series, and I totally meant for that to be the case. Like, rather than usual 3 characters, I was going to do 5, and have it be like this big finale, this special finale. And then I went to start making the drawings. I had a look through the comments for what the most highly requested characters were, and I thought there were only 5 highly requested characters I had left, but it turns out there were actually 6. I had missed one out. And I know this isn't every single character in the series, but these are the ones that have been like the most commonly requested in the comments. And you know, splitting 6 means that's 3 per video again, so here we are with the second to last part of the BanBan series. This is definitely the penultimate part now. The next part is 100% going to be the finale. And I will choose something else to do for that finale to make it special. I think I already have an idea of what I want to do, which will mean that it'll take longer to come out, but hopefully you will all like it. But anyways, let's focus on this video here. Once again, 3 highly requested BanBan characters that I am redesigning, and let's get on with it. Oh, and if you enjoy, maybe subscribe and leave a like for my other content. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, cool. We start this video off with Blue BanBan, which is what lots of people called him in the comments. I think his name is Flumbo, actually. I know absolutely nothing about this guy. Zilch, zero, absolutely nothing. I wanted to base his design based on purely my interpretation and purely what I see of him. And I came up with an idea where he is basically the complete and utter opposite to BanBan. And so while in the cartoon lore, BanBan is quite chill, he's very friendly. Flumbo is not necessarily evil, not necessarily bad, but he's a bit more cocky, a bit more arrogant. Definitely thinks that he's better than BanBan, probably thinks he should be the school principal rather than BanBan. And so I gave him this quite cocky, chest puffed out and arms crossed pose. At the same time, I interpreted that sort of yellow thing under his mouth as a beard. So I gave him a beard, you know, simple as that. And in giving him the beard, he actually almost looked a bit Viking-like. So I lead into that by giving him these, you know those old Ugg boots, I think they were called? The brown things with the fluffy tops. I gave him some of those as well. And leaning more into the Viking vibe, I wanted him to look like he was a bit more older and wiser, maybe. BanBan is the young new guy on the block. Flumbo has maybe been around for a while and is jealous of BanBan being the one that everyone pays attention to, thinking that he should be the one that everyone is paying attention to, the one that is the wiser man, the more experienced man, stuff like that. So one of the things that I did was I gave him a scar over one of his eyes. I don't know how he got this scar, I just felt like it added to him quite well. So write a note, type in the comments below, how do you think he got this scar? But essentially, same sort of body type as BanBan, a little bit more muscular, has a beard, is blue. That's pretty much it. Now, as I said, I was going for the complete opposite of BanBan. And BanBan in his monster form is a demon. And the opposite of a demon is an angel. So I thought, why didn't I make Flumbo a big angel character? So that BanBan isn't actually the bad guy. Because I'm going to have it in my lore that BanBan gets out of control with his demon form, but he's not actually a bad guy. Don't know if that's how it is actually in the game, but that's sort of how I think about it. Whereas Flumbo is an angel and you'd expect him to be this good angelic guy. But he's actually really full of rage. He is more like a demon, despite his looks. He is just absolutely full of anger. And I also really wanted to play into the muscular vibe of him. And so as you can see, I had a reference of the Hulk here because this was really stepping out of my comfort zone. I've never drawn this sort of anatomy before, and Hulk was sort of exactly the body type that I was thinking of, so I referenced him. Basically, when you think of an angel, you think of this really graceful creature, not intimidating at all, very welcoming, very warm. And I knew if I went instead of this big hulking beast made of muscles and he's ready to just absolutely crush you with absolute rage and aggression, then that is really playing into this sort of bait and swap. Because, you know, imagine that you are in the Garten of BanBan area, you're being chased by all these monsters, and in the distance you see a glowing light. It's a warm yellow light of a halo, and you think, oh my god, my saviour is over there. you go over there and you realise you're actually about to die even faster now, because this is the thing that greets you. Not the angel that you thought, not the welcoming embrace that you thought you were going to get. Absolute danger, absolute anger and rage. And now you've got to run even faster. And also the muscular stuff plays more into the being the complete opposite of BanBan, because the BanBan monster form I had him very skeletal. So having something that is incredibly huge and muscular is a great antithesis to that. I also gave him larger horns, a bit more like goat horns, and I had the halo dangling on one of them rather than floating above his head. Almost like it's like he's a false angel. And I did in the end give him angelic wings as well, but I had them look really tattered and messy. Almost like they're just glued on wings, they're not even real, you know? Like they're not glued on, they are part of his body, but like they are scraggy, they are very, very messy, they're not these really soft looking wings you'd expect. And it's kind of to show that he is a false angel, he doesn't deserve the title of an angel. And I also felt like it was kind of weird just having him have nothing in the crotch area, so I eventually put a loincloth there, because like, it just looked really weird otherwise. When colouring the monster form, it was going to become a fine balance of having more realistic colours, so not the overly saturated cartoon colours, but more realistic organic colours, but also making them not too dark and grungy to fit the angel aesthetic. So I decided to make his skin colour a more darker pale blue, basically have a lot more grey undertones in the blue. But when it came to his hair, the yellow parts, I made them a bit brighter than I usually would, just so that you can really play into the fact that this is a character that's not meant to be bad, but is bad. Like, you know, I don't know how else to explain it. Because having these brighter colours does play into the angel aesthetic more, and really leads into this bait and switch that I love with this design. It was also kind of hard to figure out what I wanted to do with his patterns that he had. On the original design, it's all on his face. But as I sort of coloured in the torso, I realised it looked really bland. There wasn't much going on there. And so I decided to also add the pattern on his chest and torso. And I sort of gave it this like sun pattern as well, which is sort of like another thing that's associated with, I don't know, heaven and angelic stuff. And I really do think it helped fill in that gap a bit more because it was just so empty there. His arms also looked a bit empty, so I added some bands to go around them too. Then after all the colouring, I realised that I totally forgotten I wanted to add some veins to his body to really show the bulge and intense muscles. So I went back in and I did that as well. Shading him was actually quite fun though. Being able to shade around all these muscle shapes, it was great practice for me, with this being something that I don't normally do. And it was great fun watching all the forms take shape and have it look a lot more 3D. I was a bit lazy with the wings because I just didn't know how to approach doing a feather texture, but I realised it actually works because, as I was saying before, the wings are meant to be scraggy and unkempt and messy. So having this really messy texturing that I did, because I did it so quickly, actually worked quite well, so that was okay. And once I added the final shading, it all just came together, and I think this guy turned out quite cool. This next character has been highly requested for quite a while, and I've been putting them off for quite a while because I had absolutely zero ideas of what to do for them. But I finally got round to it, and I just had to sort of go with the flow. If you can't already tell, this is the naughty ones. And basically, I would just have to take Sir Dadadoo and Queen Batselia and just mash them together, I guess. But I definitely lean more towards it being Sir Dadadoo than Queen Batselia because that's what it's like in game, and again, I had no ideas, so. In trying to fit them into the cartoon universe, giving them a role, I had them be students of the school, and I thought maybe they're called the naughty ones because they act up a lot in school. You know, cause a lot of trouble, they're troublemakers. And I think the reason to that is because they are rebelling against their lifestyle. Now, of course, Queen Batselia is the queen of the kingdom, and therefore the naughty ones became royal offspring, but they don't want that lifestyle. They don't want to live the royal lifestyle. They don't want to be famous. They just want to be normal kids who go to school like everyone else. And so they finally convinced their mum to let them go to what they would call a commoner school, and they are so happy that they can rebel against this lifestyle they don't want that they do it all the time. They just cause trouble because they can, and most of the time they do get away with it because even though they're trying to escape that lifestyle, everyone knows that they're the royal children, so no one's going to go against them. In terms of their actual design, I mostly kept their body like Sir Dadadoo's. I gave them a bit more of a muzzle like a kangaroo, gave them the kangaroo ears, I gave them a bit of a sort of fluffy hairstyle as well to show a bit of the kangaroo fur, but these guys definitely take after their dad more than their mum. Dude, I was looking through this recording so that I could do the voiceover, and I was obviously grinding bolts for Ratchet and Clank in the background, which runs through OBS, which is what I was using to record the speed paint. So there's just some random Ratchet and Clank footage in this. It's just randomly there in a Garten of BanBan video, like, okay then. When it came to colouring them, I didn't want to just use the grey of Sir Dadadoo, and I also didn't want to just use the purple of Queen Batselia. So I went to purple grey. I obviously have no ideas for even this voiceover for this guy, like, I have no inspiration when it comes to this character at all. You have a purple slug with a mohawk. There you go. Enjoy. I don't like, what else do I say? Oh, and let's not forget the green backpack, because why not? I had no ideas for the cartoon form, and I still had no ideas for the monster form either. So I got my so out to do a monster drawing and just sort of use that to reference and get ideas. I ended up with basically a leech that has really scraggly fur. Same sort of lamprey eel mouth, but a bit smaller. And I remembered in the Cream Bouncelia monster form that I had made it so in her pouch you could see the eyes of the naughty ones. And then I realised they don't have eyes in the game, nor does the cartoon form have eyes. But that's not stopping me from adding eyes to the monster form, and I added a lot of eyes. I had to use analog horror at some point, guys. It was going to be in my art at some point. So I ended up with this sort of leech monster, same sort of lamprey eel mouth, loads and loads of eyes. It had kangaroo ears. Its hands were a little bit more paw-like. The tail, rather than ending in the sucker of a leech, it was just like a normal tail. And it still had the sort of scraggy mohawk of the cartoon form. The main feature here of this guy is the mouth and the eyes. When it came to lining this guy, I really wanted to exaggerate the scraggy fur. So I was very, very loose with my lines, very light with them as well, which is a great way of doing fur. Honestly, texturing in your line art is a really good way of making the drawings pop a bit more. And it can also help guide you when it comes to doing the painting and texturing that way, because you've sort of got an idea of where the texturing already needs to be of the fur direction and stuff. So I was literally just doing really, really light strokes with my pen, and then going back and adding the line weight variation where it was needed. Oh my god, the Ratchet and Clank footage is back. I obviously kept forgetting to switch back to it. Oh my god. With the eyes, I just wanted them to be very analog horror-like. I know analog horror is kind of overused. It's just exactly what I thought of here. I mean, it's sort of what I did for Queen Bouncelia, so I wanted to keep that consistent. And you know, as much as people say analog horror is overused, no matter what, if you're in the dark and you see those kind of eyes, it's creepy, it's scary. And also, I just didn't want to do really detailed eyes, because like, I don't know how to do really detailed, realistic eyes, so analog horror eyes it is. When texturing him overall, it was going to be a mixture of the sort of blotty texture for the more leech-like skin, and then the stringy fur texture. Overall, keeping this one looking a lot more painterly worked really well. It just fit the very messy vibe of the character. I mean, he's literally like this horrible looking skin, and then coming out of that skin and flesh are just tufts of really scraggy fur that look like it's going to fall out any minute. So keeping the texture and looking messy worked really well here. I also made sure to go over the eyes and sort of make them a bit more 3D. So like underneath I added a darker tone to show the fold of where the cheek is, and then a lighter colour on top to show the bulge of the eyelid. And it just made it look a lot more 3D, because honestly the analog colour eyes were a little bit flat. This is one one of those characters that was so highly requested that she was commented on like every single video, and it's a little bit difficult because I don't think she has an official model yet, but I thought I'd give her a go anyway. So obviously within the cartoon universe, she is going to be the art teacher. And again, this is a character that I had no ideas for, which really sucked because this is like the only BanBan character that I can say they actually have like a decent concept for the design going on. You know, an anteater that uses its giant tail as a paintbrush. That's, you know, pretty unique, pretty good. So it kind of sucks that I couldn't really come up with much for this, but I think I got somewhere with it. And I ended up with a sort of very similar thing to the cartoon form of the game, but I made it a bit more upright, a bit more humanoid, like all the other cartoon characters. I gave her an apron to show off the artist vibe a bit more. And I also decided to have it so that she is actually holding her tail like a paintbrush. I found it really hard to get the face right. It was just a lot of experimentation in the end. I didn't quite like how the official design had done it. I don't know how to describe it, but it looked like it wasn't an actual animal muzzle, you know. So I definitely want to make it look more like an actual animal muzzle. While I was lining, I made the impromptu decision to give her some glasses. And the only reason I can tell you about this is because I thought it might look cute. And then I tried it and it looked cute. So she's got glasses now. I initially wasn't going to make her whole tail blue, like the end of her tail, but then I thought there wasn't enough sort of going on with the colour palette, so I decided to make the whole end of her tail blue as part of the fur pattern, and then make the paint and stripping on it a green instead. Mainly chose green because it sort of fit with the colour palette that was already going on. Doesn't really mean anything, it could be any colour paint that she has on the end of her tail, whatever she's using at the time, I just went green for this. Other than that, the colouring is pretty much exactly the same. The only thing I had issues with was when I was trying to do the fur texturing, the two tones that I chose, it was just kind of creating this muddy mess on the actual yellow. It was making it look really muddy, really pale, which does not fit the cartoon theme. So I ended up actually having to do the texturing on two separate layers, have one layer for the darker tone, one layer for the lighter tone, which made it take a lot longer than normal, but I think it definitely looked a lot better. Guys, I had nothing for the monster form. My brain was empty. Absolutely no ideas here. And in the end, I decided I'm just gonna have to like draw an anteater and go from there. Like, I don't know what to do. So I did exactly that. I started experimenting with poses. I was gonna go for a pose very similar to what I did for my Nightmare Bonnie redesign. The link will be up in the top corner, wherever it is, to that video if you want to go look at it. But I just couldn't get it to work, so I went on a bit more of like a normal anteater look. But I made the back a lot more hunched because it's just a bit more uncanny that way. This was one of those drawings where I was really making it up as I go along. Once I had the general shape of the body in, it was time to think about how I was going to turn this into a horror monster. My first idea was to have the muzzle, the long nose, sort of splitting open into 4 sections. It's a very common trope in horror, but I think it would work quite well for this character, because you could just imagine that whole nose splitting open, and then the tongue coming out that's going to like wrap you up and then bring you in and swallow you whole, sort of thing. But the rest of her body was pretty normal, honestly. You know, large long claws and such. And keeping the paintbrush tail. colouring was the same as always, just going slightly duller colours for a more realistic vibe, and I tried to make her sort of spotty pattern I put on the cartoon form a little bit more realistic, give it a little bit like a cheetah pattern almost. And the other main part of this design was that I decided to have it so that the quote-unquote paint that she uses is actually a substance that she can secrete herself, a very toxic poisonous substance. She likely has venom glands or something, and then she can sort of spit out this really thick goopy substance that's really poisonous, and she will coat her claws in it, she will coat her tail in it, and this stuff probably burns like acid when you get it on you, like it's horrible. And that will be a big way of how she would kill you in game. Touch her tail, then you've got that goop on you, it's probably going to burn through your skin and it'll be horrible. If she gets you with her claws, then that's going probably straight into your bloodstream and it's just going to kill you really quickly that way. And I quite like this idea. I think it's quite cool to think that the paint that you think she's using, that she probably adds like graffiti on the walls and stuff and it's used for this paint, and you think it is just purely paint, but it's actually the substance that she makes herself that is really toxic. I personally love that idea, not to toot my own horn, but I personally love that idea. Take note, you Euphoric brothers, take note. Anyways, other than that, she was pretty straightforward to get finished off. Alright, there is 3 more characters. As usual, let me know in the comments down below which of these 3 is your favourite. Do not comment more characters for me to do, I swear to God. I already have the last 3 chosen, okay? So, actually no, do comment because that will boost me in the algorithm. Do comment. Comment all you want. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and maybe subscribe. I would really appreciate it. If you want to know when I upload a new video, then hit the bell icon. Oh, and also, I am reviving my gaming channel. Gonna be doing some proper Let's Plays and stuff on there, some fun videos, fun challenge stuff. So if you're interested, do pop on over there. The link will be in the description if you want to watch my gaming content. A huge thank you to my first ever Patreon, Final Shockdown. Thank you so much for subscribing to my Patreon. If you are interested in supporting me further in the future, then check out my Patreon, which will be linked in the description below. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!